Games of day and night cycles have always stuck out to me, particularly the ones that take full advantage of it to flesh out the world they set up as much as possible. I've never really thought about it that much, but it could honestly be one of my favorite mechanics you can have in the medium. It's part of why I adore Majora's Mask and Animal Crossing. They're two very different games in that regard. One involves having the NPC's actions and movements revolve around a sped up in-game timer, while the other is a relaxing life simulation game that parallels the real-world clock hour by hour. That brings me to Chulip, a game that also has a day and night cycle and has every NPC move around and do things on a fixed schedule, with another selling point being the kissing. Okay, so you've probably never heard of this game, and if you have, you might know it for that. Yeah, this is another one of those obscure games I usually talk about, but I guess unlike all the other games, I always looked at this one and thought it could have been hiding something really special. And even before playing it, I found the history of Chulip to be kind of interesting. It was developed by Punchline, an extremely obscure short-lived company that's well known for Rule of Rose. It was founded by a former member of Loveday Lake, Yoshiro Kimura, who's also developed a number of strange games akin to this one. Now, what's most odd to me about Chulip is that it took 4 whole years to localize it for America. I mean, it released for Japan in late 2002 and early 2007 for the US, which I find really interesting, because apparently the reason for why the delay was this long is that Punchline had a busy schedule, but I'd honestly be more willing to believe that they just didn't want to work on it because they thought it wasn't going to sell well for a Western audience, which I think they would have been right. I mean, no one probably bought it, which is pretty sad, but that's how it goes with all these Japanese games. And as such, combined with that and the fact that Chulip was already bizarre with its nature, it became without a doubt one of the most expensive PS2 games of all time, right next to Rule of Rose, which is like $500. It's kind of funny that the only 2 games this company worked on became ludicrously expensive, but thankfully with Chulip, I managed to get my hands on an elusive copy. Yeah, check it out. I scored this on eBay for like only $400, which is a little above price, I know, but it was all worth it just to experience what the hell Chulip even is. That's some pretty interesting discards, huh? But no, real talk, this burned copy is actually pretty neat, cause if you don't know, Chulip is one of the uncommon PS2 games that was sold on a CD, not a DVD. And because of that, the disc would have a distinct blue bottom. I had to do some magic wizardry to get this on a DVD though, so let's hope to God it works. I am excited to talk about this weird game though. Alright, so Chulip opens up with the main protagonist and the love interest meeting under a talking tree. You can name both characters as they don't have official names. I named the girl Love Dog. I don't know why. You can dislike if you want. Anyways, the lovers tree asks both if they agree to a kiss, hoping to cement their everlasting love. And it was just a dream. Turns out you, or M4 as I named him, are just moving into Long Life Town as a small family, only just father and son. The residents of the town seem to either secretly detest or profile you as a criminal just because of how poor you are, or maybe they're just indifferent. You meet a woman with a gargantuan head named Michelle, Batian who's also struggling with money, a married couple who argue at your first sight, and a policeman and train conductor. You do soon meet the love of your life, the same one you saw in that dream. Of course you try to give her a kiss, but it's reality. You can't just do that to someone you just met. So in order to win her over, it's time to resort to other options. A love letter. Dear Love Dog, I really, really love you, Love Dog. I love you very much. Please give me a kiss next time. And that should work, right? Once you put your very thoughtful love letter into the mailbox, well, yeah, someone clearly thinks otherwise about how great it is. Turns out this person is Michio Suzuki, this weird Mr. Saturn knockoff who lives underground sheltered all by himself. Although he does have some good advice about how to write a proper love letter, as well as teaching you the basics of kissing somebody. And after that, your quest seems pretty clear. Kiss as many people as you can to gain a better reputation so you can earn the kiss from the girl of your dreams. Let's go back home for the night and holy shit, we really are poor. I mean, we have to sleep on the floor and we don't even have our own room. On the following day, you're out of the tutorial and the game starts officially. First thing you'll notice is that the day and night cycle is constant. Obviously, every NPC is entirely dependent on it. They'll do specific things at specific times as well as go to different places, and it is a really cool aspect to Chulip. But we'll get to it more in depth later. Chulip comes from the words chew and lip, so obviously this game is about kissing. Yeah, you can kiss anybody. You can kiss the main characters by completing their side quests, but most of the time you'll be kissing the underground residents. They're walled off from society in these dark holes under the ground, which you can peer into to get hints on how to solve their puzzle. They'll pop out very briefly at a certain time of the day, and it's at that point you either have to just wait, or do something specific to make them viva, which will be indicated by the music notes above their head. Once they're in this state, you can successfully kiss them. Very weird. Be careful though, as if you walk near them when they're angry, they'll lash out and hurt you. If you get enough kisses, you can clock in your day back at home and potentially level up, gaining new hearts in the process. Now, I have some good things to say about this whole kissing shenanigan, but I also have some not so great things to say about it. Well, for one, on the positive side, I think the concept is equally creepy as it is hilarious. You gotta just wonder, how did the designers even come up with this idea? Well, funnily enough, we actually know. The director, Kimura, says that the kissing gimmick originated from him visiting Western countries and seeing couples kiss in public and finding that really interesting. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. That's how it really came about. Such a bizarre idea that started from such a bizarre observation, which I think extends to this entire game's personality. You've at least definitely noticed how wacky the character designs are. Michelle having this gross looking face with a giant head for a short body, the police character having another giant head, yet instead resembling something like a bobblehead, and for some reason I kinda get a kick out of this lion dude, even down to the person you play as. To be fully honest, I thought he was a monkey at first, but he's not. He's just kind of funny looking. I love how he says oitsu every time he talks to someone, and I don't know why, but the way he looks when he tries to kiss someone is also funny to me. It's like, smooch. Everyone also has this babbling gibberish speech you can hear when they talk, which really reminded me of Chibi Robo. I guess these weird Japanese games are connected. I also want to praise the vibe this game gives off. Everything about the towns and areas you explore have a very cozy atmosphere, which I really liked. There's just something really appealing about the look of this game, especially with Long Life Town. I think it's the fact that it uses realistic textures to make the look of a small local Japanese town look real. I don't know what I mean, but it's just pleasant. And I think giving this game a day and night cycle kind of helped immerse me in more, I guess. When the nighttime settles in, then the music stops, you can hear the chimes in the background indicating the start of your curfew. It's pretty relaxing, honestly. When I first played this game, I got some strong Harvest Moon vibes, specifically A Wonderful Life as I grew up with that game. It's not only that it has a day and night feature, but also the fact that the characters you could talk to had their own distinct strange personalities. And by the way, while Natsumi did both publish Chulip and A Wonderful Life, they're not developed by the same companies. But I did manage to cross-check both of the credits, and it turns out one person, Yasuhiro Wada, was the producer for both games, which I guess makes sense, but that's about it. I also have to talk about the soundtrack, which is probably one of the most unique things about this game. I did not expect a lot of vocals to be a part of it. Yeah, some songs rely on purely a cappella, which is true for the main overworld theme, and the song that plays in Scarecrow Field, which is actually catchy as hell. Just listen to this. Overall, I love the inclusion of this. It gives Chulip a very unique style. It's not only just bums, it's also whatever this song is. Okay, yeah, now I like this line even more. I just love how jolly the singer is too. I even like the majestic yet bizarre vibe for the title screen music. It's like really off-putting for some reason, but I don't care. It's got the love dog in it somewhere. It just has a lovely vibe to it. It's got the love dog running around the screen without a care in the world. It's truly lovely in a way, like a love dog. Fun fact, these songs were all composed by Hirofumi Taniguchi, who also worked on Chibi Robo. What did I tell you? It's all connected! I think Chulip's best aspect, though, are the optional/mandatory scenarios. Most of them are regulated as side quests with the NPCs, and once again, they are a joy to go through, but we'll cover it later. First, we have to solve the case of the love letter set. So from here to there, you probably have stumbled across this utility pole, who's actually a school teacher named Mr. Yamada, and he seems to be in debate with Suzuki regarding his salary and how the school doesn't pay him much. Actually, I honestly don't really know. What does matter is that at Worldly Desire Temple, the next area you can travel to by train, all the other teachers of the school who are for some reason just stuck in signs or statues kick Yamada to the ground and split the set into 3 pieces: the love ink, the love paper, and the love fountain pen. And so it's up to you to travel to the 3 new areas where these teachers reside and rescue the pieces of the love letter set by completing complex yet absurd objectives. I like this main quest the game puts you through. It lets you explore some new places with some wacky characters and events going on, but I also don't like it for a number of reasons. Again, we'll get to it later. Let's just go through what happens in the main story. So Worldly Desire Temple has you trying to get a wooden gong that sounds more bearable to listen to for Monk Huichi, the rector of the temple. This involves a lot of backtracking and having to solve a puzzle with the tombstones in the graveyard by lighting the incense sticks. Once you finally get the sacred gong and return it, oh, I get it, it's ironic. It sounds worse than the original. Well, that's great, but I guess it's alright for Mr. Inu, since he rewards us with the love ink. Next, it's recommended you head to Funny Bone City. Technically, you could do the other quests out of order, but it's probably best you do them like this because the next area has you technically backtracking to this one. Funny Bone City is actually one of, if not my favorite areas to explore in the game, since it's pretty funny how it works. So you have to take a tour into the Funny Bone factory where you can explore how all of the workers are doing and what they even do for their jobs. You quickly learn everything is pretty much mindless. Everyone seems to be doing things for no reasons, just so they can have the achievement of productivity in their lives. But in reality, they feel extraordinarily empty inside, since all of this meaningless busy work has completely drained them for their true goals. They even all start the day by doing a pointless exercise. In order to actually progress the task at hand, well, you first need to deliver a letter that the manager gives you to hand it to the walking scarecrow in Scarecrow Field. Then he'll give you a kiss. Oh, fuck. The following day, you can observe numbers for a security code in his diary, so you can access the vault where the boss card is located. What I find most funny about this discovery is that the entire factory is literally a gigantic security measure. And yes, I mean that literally. Like, you have to enter the numbers of the code by traveling to the different floors with that same number, which is quite elaborate for something like this. But first, you need to hide on one of the floors where there's a lazy security guard, which you can learn from talking to one of the workers. Then enter the codes in the train, and you obtain the boss card, hopefully. A pretty specific process, I gotta say. Since you're the actual president of the factory now, you have the authority to fire anyone, which is fun as all hell, you know what I mean? But it also lets you gain the love paper from Mr. Saito. I really like this part of the story. I especially love the fact that you get to explore a factory in this game, and I love the fact that you gain the role of president of the entire factory from just a single card. May as well say a lot about society, am I right? Pretty funny. But afterwards is probably one of the most absurd scenarios you'll ever see in a video game, and I'm not joking, it's really this bizarre. So at Scarecrow Field, Miss Awada will ask you if you believe in aliens or not. If you don't, she'll understand. Back at Long Life Town, you have to look through this girl's mystery telescope after dark to witness a UFO crashing in Scarecrow Field. Okay, so it turns out this alien who casually strolls around the place now needs like 500 different items, and they are very, very, very specific. It's a gigantic, arduous fetch quest, which honestly I have no idea how anyone could have done without a walkthrough. But if you manage, you get to see some pretty hilarious cutscenes. If you got a frying pan, a refrigerator, and a computer, then you'll be able to turn this house into this thing, I guess. It's actually a makeshift giant music box. Once you go up the tower, you have to input a pattern with the stars, which you can only find the solution for by planting some seeds. But first you have to insert some funny cola, which you can only get from a specific vending machine in Long Life Town. And yeah, it does turn into a music box, and it plays a nice jingle. How neat. The alien then kisses you. Yay. Effectively ending your fetch quests. Man, that was a very weird order of events, but hey, it at least gets us the love fountain pen since we actually proved that aliens exist, right? Nice, I guess. Yeah, this scenario in particular is probably as crazy as it gets for Chulip, and I do love it. Really just made me think about how, man, this game is just fucking weird. It also proves to be a very interesting fetch quest with random items and random unexplainable things happening. It is really enjoyable, but man, okay. So I have some gripes with this game, some real gripes. Probably most of the rest of this video is just gonna be me talking about those gripes, while sprinkling in a bit of praise every now and then. But there are unfortunately numerous glaring flaws with Chulip in my opinion. Okay, so just focusing less on the storyline, I think this game is straight up unforgiving to beginning players. The first hour or so I played was very uneventful, but also kind of frustrating. I died like 3 separate times, and I felt like none of them were really my fault. It was either something stupid like a ledge that the game told me I could jump from, died, walking late at night, met my demise from a policeman shooting at me, this angry dog that I didn't see coming, just died by his barking. There are just things in this game that will literally kill you on your first try, or at least deplete a good fraction of your health. The spinning globe in the park is a death sentence, and even though it does tell you not to get on it, well, most players are still gonna want to try it just to see what it does, and you're dead. The game punishes you for no good reason. Like, why should finding poop in a trash can or literally walking next to a house kill you? It creates this early confusion and frustration in new players which they shouldn't have, alongside the fact that it's hard to get anywhere in this game. It literally doesn't make any sense to me, and no, you cannot make any excuse for this. I also have some problems with the underground residents and how they work. They're not a bad idea, but most, if not pretty much all of the time, you won't know when they will come out. So unless you have a walkthrough or something, you could just be standing next to their hole for the entire day and night. That's just straight up not fun. And you might be thinking, can't you just do other stuff to move your day along? Well, unfortunately, I rarely ever found that strategy worth it. Usually with this gimmick of a day and night system comes strategic planning of each day so you don't waste any precious seconds. And I always love that part of the gameplay for games that do it right. But in Chulip, the clock moves fast, like really fast. I mean, an hour equates to just 30 seconds. So by the time you walk across a town or something to get another kiss, that guy you were trying to look for will probably be gone. And sure, the first couple of kisses in Long Life Town are easy to do, although they never amount to much at all. The puzzles with them are essentially non-existent. But oh man, do they ramp up in frustration. They introduce more puzzles into these guys as you move on, and they range from okay to just plain stupid. Take the 20-year-old guy, for example. Yes, that is his actual name. I am not joking. You want to know how to get his kiss? You have to walk past him 50 times over the course of multiple days. Just wow, what a great and fun puzzle. But in terms of actually being a total hassle, I have to mention the snobby Tengu. Only found in Worldly Desire Temple, this guy only comes out for like a minute, which again is actually 2 in-game hours, and he does this thing where he teleports to different statues. In order to kiss him, you need to wait for him to trip, which is complete RNG. It's complete RNG will he actually land, and it's complete RNG whether he'll Vivo or not. So if you miss out on those precious 60 seconds of the day when he's out and about, you might as well just load up the last save for Christ's sake. However, I think the reward for the most frustrating underground resident goes to Jigsaw. Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, this is one of those residents who has a big puzzle to do. You need to find the correct jigsaw piece for his face. Here's the issue. This man only shows up for 30 goddamn seconds, and the piece you have to find rarely ever shows up. Combined with the fact that if you walk too quickly near him, you'll lose a fuck ton of hearts. And not only that, but it's also the fact that he's only accessible in a factory in which you have to hide in a specific floor after taking a tour of said factory way after midnight. This is just too much. I was ready to just give up at this point. But hey, it's all good, right? Because I found a shrat. What you gotta do is trigger the text next to the hole so it says there's a hole. This will pause the in-game time, but will not pause all the pieces to keep respawning. So with this method, you can find the piece you're looking for if it's close to you, and if Jigsaw isn't remotely close to you. I genuinely think that's the only way to get the kiss. Once I did, man, it was just like a pure sigh of relief, man. You have no idea. But come on, how annoying is that? It also doesn't help at all that this game is just tedious. Like, if you want to get from one place to another, you have to board the train, which is a nice addition that immerses you in the actual world, but first you have to wait for the train to arrive, then you gotta board it, watch the unskippable cutscene, then get off. And oh man, if you're going all the way to Funny Bones City, that's even more fun. Haha, yeah. You have to board 2 separate trains. Okay, let's time this. Let's see how long it takes for me to get to Funny Bones City, starting from the moment I leave the house to when I step foot in the area. And 3 minutes, 37 seconds. That may not seem long, but trust me, these kinds of things add up and makes the gameplay an absolute drag sometimes, especially if you're going for 100%. Even something as simple as sleeping in your bed for the night and moving on to the next day forces you to watch this unskippable cutscene for like the 50th time, as well as selling items. You have to do it one at a time. Okay, that might be a nitpick, but still. Man, this game just desperately needs more wiggle room in these kinds of things. The day and night cycle especially. Like, it's not a good balance in my eyes. And you might be thinking, how can I have issues with that mechanic when I think so highly of Majora's Mask? Here's the thing. It moves too fast for you to plan out multiple things in your day, since simply walking from one place to another is somehow tedious. But when you're waiting for something, then that's when I want the game to speed up. It's weird. You can skip intervals of time by reading comic books on the bench, but even that is not consistent. Sometimes, although very rarely, your character will just fucking rip it in half and throw it away if it's not a good comic, forcing you to buy another one. Like, Jesus Christ. Again, it happens rarely, but the fact that it happens at all is just so frustrating to me. These kinds of things are not issues in Majora because you have things like the Song of Soaring, Inverted Song of Time, Song of Double Time, all these convenient ways to control your days at your own will, right at your own fingertips. And by the way, I do know that you can get the run ability and the function to set your alarm clock to wake up at any time. Those sure are convenient, but man, I really wish those weren't closed off to very, very specific underground residents you have to kiss. In fact, the game doesn't tell you these features exist, or what people you have to kiss to earn the features. You could probably go through the entire game without knowing about them at all, which is a problem. Man, every time I would boot up this game, I would start off feeling rather optimistic. I'd remember all the good things this game had to offer, like the world, the characters, and the wacky scenarios. But then I'd realize, oh yeah, I have to go through all of this again. This kind of made most of my playthrough sort of miserable. That being said, those good things the game offers are still prevalent, like all the optional side content with the residents of the town. It basically works the exact same way as Majora's Mask. Everyone has their own stories. Some are more outlandish than others for sure, and some are pretty simple. The best part about doing them is being able to learn everyone's motives. It is a really cool and rewarding aspect of Chulip. Getting to enter entirely new areas you've never seen before, secluded off to just these quests, is great. All of this totally gives me the vibes of getting to enter Kafei's hideout, or see the postman in bed, or even just being able to enter Tom Nook's shop after hours in Animal Crossing, getting to see how he's still in his pajamas. I've always loved this sort of thing, man. It's only at certain hours of the day you can do this kind of stuff, you know? Which I find really amazing. And I have to give credit where credit is due. There's an entire system which, while the game doesn't really acknowledge very well, is actually very detailed for a game like this. It's the name card system. You could show your name card to the citizens and they'll trade their own name card for that. With this, you could show different name cards to different people and see what they have to say, which is best used to figure out their problem. Like I said, everyone has their own problem, whether it's something like how Mr. Cheapod is looking for a crane feather, or how Mrs. Plum lost her dentures and needs it back from a random civilian. And even how Michelle desperately wants to eat eggplants because she's being tormented by a complaint pot cult. Okay, yeah, it does get weird pretty quickly, but some of it is actually kind of deep with its message sometimes. For example, Batian is unemployed and needs a job to make money, and while that may be the solution to his entire life, he actually becomes depressed after working at Funny Bone Factory just after one day, as if life itself has no meaning anymore. Back at the Funny Bone Factory, once you become president, you can fire Batian, and he'll become happy again, giving you a kiss back at town. I find this alone to be ultimately satisfying. The fact that you've basically made them happy again after earning their kiss is rewarding as all hell in terms of building this world. One of my favorite parts you get to see when observing Batian during his employment is his endless venting on the train. I thought about happiness all day today. I used to be happy just by singing. I used to love singing. I'm so tired and I don't feel like singing. I only feel happy when I'm sleeping. Man, that is so real. Like, honest to God, I did not expect dialogue like that from a game like this. Just take a look. I mean, that's how it goes in the real world, right? You get a job, expect to be happy just because of the sole factor making money, but in reality, every dream you previously owned is crushed in the process. Genuinely, I feel like we have all had that feeling at some point. I mean, I can't help but fear that'll happen to me when I get a job eventually. I mean, this shit is so well portrayed in Chulip while also being equally as tragic. This kind of stuff even somewhat goes same for the underground residents. See, they all live down in these holes because they've been fully rejected from society. As if their interests or their talents are too niche for the miserable world Chulip takes place in. Overall, I like that Chulip pokes fun at these things about life while making it rather humorous to fit in with the general vibe of this game. It never really switches up its portrayal of these themes or shoves it in your face, which is great. Now, when I mention how surprisingly compelling the characters themselves can get, I gotta say my favorite big long side quest in this game is the one between Goro and Julie, the father and mother of the girl of your dreams. This one actually intertwines multiple kisses, not only from the couple, but from policeman, Belle, and from certain underground residents. It's really cool. To start it off, by bringing a wine coupon to Julie after midnight, you get to witness a very dark and awkward scene. Julie and Goro argue for a bit about Goro's incessant and unhealthy drinking habits, but then things quickly grow more violent with... yeah, alright then. In a twist of events, he immediately gets arrested for acts of attempted domestic violence. It's up to you to sort of reconstruct the relationship between them, and you do this by completing numerous little objectives that make it all the more engaging. Julie still has remorse for her husband, especially after hearing he's been locked in a jail cell underground at Worldly Desired Temple's graveyard, as if he's pretty much dead and under a tombstone. So in order to break him out, you have to break the law. That's right, you gotta get 3 crime stamps so policeman will send you to the same jail where Goro's locked up. This involves smoking a cigarette, stealing Julie's hairpin, and even walking naked in public from the turtle bath, which is hilarious to me. I mean, no other game could ever do this shit. Now that you've successfully made it to jail, you could unlock the cell Goro's in by completing one of the strangest puzzles I may have ever done. It involves having to press very specific buttons, but only pressing some when your controller vibrates. And no, I'm not kidding, that's how intricate it gets. Afterwards, you're rewarded with a final cutscene, showing that Julie and Goro have both fixed their ends of their toxic marriage, ending it all off with a kiss from Julie. Yeah, okay. But for real, I really think this side quest is great. It lets you in on a lot of different characters' motives, not just the ones that are super relevant to the story, and in the end, it's really satisfying to have it all be done. This is one of the few long-winded side quests I actually enjoy doing, even on a gameplay front, if you know what I mean. And I do like the dark territory it explores for a game like Chulip, especially when you can see these characters develop. In the end, it's just nice to finally resolve their bitter debate. This Goro and Julie side quest is basically the Chulip equivalent of Majora's Anju and Cafe quest, both long, difficult relationship-focused missions that take place throughout the day and night. This is the kind of thing I think Chulip should get the most praise for. Its characters feeling like human beings. Like, they're not just wacky characters in a wacky Japanese video game, but rather they're people that grow to become happier and better for themselves after going through the trauma of real life. I love it all. Now, while I do enjoy figuring out everyone's story with these side quests, I do unfortunately still have some criticisms. Most of it has to do with how cryptic this game can get. Yeah, that is actually a pretty big problem with Chulip. Okay, so actually doing the things the game asks you for these side quests is not super fun. It only gets really bad when you have to go back and forth through numerous areas. Take the zombie Mika quest for instance. While adding some really cool lore to Leo the Lion and demonstrating a tragic love story, it's very annoying gameplay-wise. If you mess up any part of this imperative transaction with Leo to make the right tea with the right items, you're eternally fucked. You have to get all of them again, and having to go back to Scarecrow Field, Worldly Desire Temple, and the park just for these flowers is not fun at all. You also have to wait at night in the graveyard and visit Zombie Mika not 1, not 2, but 4 separate times just to get her kiss. Jesus Christ. And honestly, if I went over all the shit this game makes you do to get every kiss from every NPC, well, this video would be way too long, as if it isn't already long enough. My point is that a lot of these side quests are super specific in where you need to be, at which time, and what items you need to have. And yes, Majora's Mask did have this to some extent, but it was nowhere near as bad and frequent as Chulip. I mean, I haven't played that game in a while, but I feel like I can at least say that. But alright, all this optional content is just for the diehards, right? You only need to do this stuff if you want to go for 100%, right? Yeah, that's true. Side quests like this that are completely up to your own decision should be this challenging to figure out. It's the exact same case with Majora's Mask and its side quests, so this shouldn't be an issue, right? Well, you're wrong. Well, you're wrong. Remember the funny love letter set? Remember what you have to do to get each piece of the set? Well, that's where the problem truly lies. Sometimes the game just kinda leaves you on your own, expecting you to figure things out. And you soon learn you're at a huge roadblock that you just can't get past. At one point, after you donate 100Z to Mock Huichi and LLT, you're given some incense sticks and are just told that they may be useful someday. That doesn't tell me anything! So apparently what you're supposed to do is buy a magnifier from Cheappot and use it to observe lettering on Huichi's head, so you can light the incense sticks on the tombstones in a certain order. Okay, you know what? Maybe that one isn't bad. That one, I only got stuck at one part. So instead, let's talk about the alien. Yeah, the alien. Recall what I said about this being an extensive ass fetch quest. Because I think I forgot to mention that this is the absolute worst when it comes to any fetch quest in video gaming history. And not only that, it's the most bizarre out of all of them. You need to obtain 4 alien dictionaries if you want to fully comprehend the alien's language at Scarecrow Field, which is important since it helps you know what other items to get to progress the story. This involves kissing very specific underground residents and dealing with this crack in the wall. You want to know how to get the last dictionary? Okay, so you have to chew microgum at the crack of 5 p.m. next to this wall. And there you go! And no, you can't chew the gum like 10 seconds after 5 p.m. starts. It can't be at 5:15 p.m. No, it has to be at this specific point in time at this wall with this specific stick of gum. That is ridiculously cryptic. How is anybody supposed to know the solution to that? Oh yeah, it doesn't really help either that one part of the same quest is completely unbeatable because of a goddamn translation error. I am not kidding. So apparently with the funny cola you're supposed to use on the computer at the tower, there is no indication that you're supposed to use that item at that location whatsoever. Not even a subtle hint. There's no evidence. Turns out this hint was present in the Japanese version, but went completely missing in the localization. For whatever reason? Good golly. If I'm being completely honest, I just used a walkthrough for pretty much all of the game. I genuinely don't think I would have beaten it without one, and I did start to enjoy the game a lot more, but I still mentioned those issues I had with Chulip being tedious. yeah, those were still a problem. In fact, using a guide was even recommended by the developers, or at least the localizers. The North American version came with a manual that was basically a walkthrough for the entire game, which tells me even they weren't confident in players figuring Chulip out. And let me reiterate, the examples I mentioned earlier are only just a few in the game. The cryptic puzzle solving too is constant for the main storyline. It's always a painful roadblock when it pops up. But before you disagree, I want to address something real quick. The whole detective system of this game, being able to show items to characters and learn more about how to solve certain puzzles, it's a very hidden yet clever feature which I do have to praise for its surprising complexity. Here's the question I want to ask though. Did the developers really expect everyone to use this system? Because for starters, the tutorial doesn't really demonstrate it at all, and second, this kind of mechanic is just straight up not appealing to everyone. I'm sorry, but just the idea of showing items to people is most definitely not everyone's cup of tea. It just takes too long, especially when only specific items will trigger new dialogue and information that's crucial to your adventure. And yeah, you could say that's an ignorant mindset, but in most people's eyes, they just want to progress. When you're just gathering information and taking notes for an hour, it's hard to know if you're really getting close to any conclusion. Hints should be obtained more organically than this. All in all, it makes Chulip so much more inaccessible. I guarantee you this game did not sell well for at least 3 major reasons. One, well, it released in 2007 in America, so obviously no one wanted to play it. 2, this game had such a distinct Japanese-style humor and personality to it that it didn't appeal to most Western audiences, unfortunately. And finally, the game is literally hard to get into for everyone just on a gameplay front because of how cryptic it can be. I think the third reason was the final nail in the coffin. It applies to both regions where Chulip came out, which is quite depressing. Okay, look, it may seem like I really hate this game, but I actually don't. Because I realize I would actually love the shit out of it if it weren't for these glaring issues that permeated for the entire ride. I already love the world, the characters, the relationships, the lore, even the hidden secrets and cutscenes that's tucked under being a true detective. I love almost everything except for the gameplay. This is still a really neat little game. In fact, out of all the obscure games that I've looked at, this one has the most personality in my personal opinion. Close to Ribbit King, but Chulip has more charm rooted in its underlying themes, which deserves as much praise as it should get. However, it's all severely held back by problems I just cannot overlook. It sucks too, because the side quests themselves are basically begging for you to go through and finish them, even if most of the missions don't net you any gameplay rewards. It's just like not doing any of the optional stuff in a game like this that runs on a full day to night cycle is just lame, man. I want to see what weird shit I can discover, but the fact that I have to put up with all of this is disappointing. But hey, let's look on the bright side. Let's finally wrap this video up. I want to at least talk a little bit about the ending, which is actually pretty neat. Once you get all the components to the love letter set, you can watch a pivotal cutscene at the park with all the teachers discussing how you, or M4, must dive into the love dog's heart in order to truly win her over and earn the kiss. There's a little plot twist with your dad, who's actually the principal of the school, and is also one of the Mr. Saturn guys, which is, creepy. But anyways, this final part of the game is actually a pretty cool visual set piece. You have to enter a giant hole in the sand that you were able to witness Yamada slowly dig through breaks in the story. This final level you explore is like the Silent Hill Otherworld equivalent of Chulip, except with this one you're basically exploring the mind of the girl. You're put through a couple of tests involving the people closest to her, with the first having you find the head of her father, Goro. After that, you experience a very strange fever dream-esque scene in a courtroom where Julie is put on trial, and you must interrogate residents of Long Life Town to confess what they think of Julie's grilled chicken. The game tries to make it obvious that most people in the town think negatively of it, specifically how it's burnt. But some, and by that I mean only 2 people, think it's pretty good. I find this scene funny as well as very unsettling, as Julie is being judged by the giant chickens for cooking such a disgusting catastrophe. It's this game's humor at its best. And even after that, you're not done, since next, you're forced to endure a lengthy quiz regarding every character in the game's world, hosted by this giant fat cat. And when I say lengthy, I absolutely mean it. It's like 20 questions, and if you miss only a few, you're donezo. Very specific questions too. It's here when you realize the developers really expected you to take very detailed notes for your whole playthrough, and yeah, I definitely did that. Woohoo! But finally, you're done with all that nonsense. The mailbox appears at a far off distance in the spotlight. We as the player get to read the letter you've come up with that you're finally going to deliver the girl. And it works. It actually reached her heart. And now here we are, at the exact same place we were at, like the dream at the start of the game. All the teachers gather at the lover's tree to witness you kiss the love of your life. Love dog. Of course not without a little fake out. There we go. The end. The credits afterwards are also pretty cute, having these hand-drawn sketches that all look like it's a child's imagination. But yeah, I think going into this game, seeing the premise, I knew exactly how it would end, but having that little final level to test your knowledge was pretty nice, even if I used a walkthrough. It's a nice final endurance run to put the last cherry on top of your true love for the girl. That is about it for Chulip. Man, I can't believe I had this much to say about it, whether good or bad. Overall, it's a decent game that has loads of potential in the personality department, but the gameplay really brings it down for me, like I said a number of times. Again, I would absolutely adore this game if it weren't for all of that. The character designs are charming as hell, the world itself is cozy, and the themes this game at least tries to convey about society, life, and productivity is a really nice addition that sets it apart from other games in this era. Just a note, if you do like this game, including the gameplay, that is perfectly fine. I would guess those that do are the diehard Chulip fans, aka ones that have played the game at least more than once, and I envy you guys. From a casual perspective though, meaning playing through the game blind, I still hold all of my complaints. It's an interesting case where every person has a different opinion depending on how much experience they have with the game. I do want to apologize how negative this video was. It's usually not my kind of thing, so yeah, I'm sorry about that. Also sorry I keep making long fucking videos. Anyways, if you do want to play Chulip, I'd say just emulate or maybe use a modded PS2. Yeah, I don't think this game is worth $200, nowhere even near that even. If I'm being truly honest, I think this game could really benefit from a re-release, and I mean a substantial one. Possibly reworking some mechanics, maybe having the tutorial teach you more about the obscure detective and social systems, or just letting the player have more freedom in how they plan out their day. You know, maybe I secretly despise Majora's Mask. I mean, that game has its fair share of flaws too. I think it'd also definitely help if it got a new script, like not even with the horrible mistranslation issue with the funny cola, but also just like the fact that I noticed a couple of grammar mistakes. Sometimes it'd be as simple as just a letter missing from a word, but other times it would be a complete garbled mess in the text, to the point where I just don't know how some of this got past play testing. Also, like, I feel like this Japanese text is supposed to say something, kind of went untranslated for no reason. It's kind of lame that Chulip didn't get that much care put into the localization. I mean, most of it seems to be the bare minimum, and simply put, it is a damn miracle this game came to the United States at all. But yeah, in conclusion, Chulip is very likable in a bunch of ways. There's just something really absurd about this little game. But unfortunately, all of that is buried under numerous gameplay headaches that are just straight up bad game design. I mean, the fact that I still actually 100%ed this game and got all the kisses must say something, because I wanted to learn as much as I could about the stories of the individual residents. To be honest, there's quite a bit that I didn't mention in this video, mostly with that, but also Easter eggs that I just straight up didn't know about, which really fascinated me upon discovery. But yeah, I'm still glad I finally beat this thing. Holy shit. I was just ready to be done with this game, man. My experience was miserable, not gonna lie. It at least intrigued me to see what other stuff Kimura worked on, including his Love Delict games and Rule of Rose. Can I just say that is really interesting? This guy went from freaking Chulip to this? Two extremely different games. Anyways, I hope to see you again someday soon. Bye. Ba ba ba.